Good afternoon, boa tarde. So, sustainability remains one of the greatest, the biggest challenges the corporate world still faces nowadays. So, how to incorporate and how to prioritize sustainability into your business? I have the pleasure to have here Rebecca Parsons, CTO Emerita at ThoughtWorks. Here. ThoughtWorks is a leading global technology consulting, and also Arthur Faria. Please. He is the CEO at Oxygen, CVC, corporate venue capital of Braskem, an innovation hub focused on sustainability and digital transformation. I would like to start here with two extremely basic questions. And don't be shy. But who here wants to live in a better world? Please? Yeah, I'm sure everybody. But actually, who is working for that? Who is doing something in your job, in your company? Okay, we can have a feeling. Yeah, I would like to start here with the definition of sustainability. Having the two perspectives, two different sectors. Please, Rebecca, you can start.
So very often when people talk about sustainability, they just focus on carbon. But sustainability is a much broader question than that. If we're talking about having a sustainable world, having sustainable growth, having a sustainable economy, we need to look past just carbon to how are we using all of our natural resources. Are we reusing what we can? Are we changing to materials that have less impact? So I look at sustainability as what are the manufacturing processes, the business processes, the ways of life that we need to alter to in order for our world, our economies, our lives to be sustainable.
And you, Arthur?
I would say very much in alignment here. From an industry perspective, I really like to think in terms of efficiency. It's how you do more with less, right? Nowadays we have what we call additive manufacturing, for instance, when you're, 3D printing everything. We come from an industry where we would do a mold and get all those leftovers and leave it there. The other additive manufacturing, you simply use the exact needed material. So to me, when we're talking about sustainability, from an industry standpoint, and that's what I'm trying to represent here, it's how efficient that is. But obviously, you need to be sustainable in terms of the governance, in terms of the business, in order to have sustainability in the production piece of the equation. So it's much more than simply saying sustainability is using different materials. That's very important, but it's how efficient you use those as well. So to me, it's very much, in terms of industry, it's very much about efficiency.
Mm-hmm. And Rebecca, you have been working with tech solutions in order to improve social and environmental tech companies with benefits. Could you please give us some examples how to use innovation in order to have more sustainable goals in the companies?
So the first thing you have to think about is you have to have a baseline, and pulling together the data around where you're at right now. How efficient are your processes? And I like that focus on efficiency. But what are all of the sources that contribute to you not being as sustainable as you could? And pulling that data together so that you can make informed decisions is an important part of using technology to solve this problem. But one of my favorite examples is a client that we worked with. And many of these solutions are very counterintuitive. And so they had this idea of what they could do to make their supply chain more efficient. And it was expensive, it was going to be complex to implement, and it didn't get them the amount of savings that they wanted. And so what we did is we put together kind of a scenario, a what-if scenario system for their supply chain to allow them to experiment in simulation with all of these different supply chain ideas. And we came up with one that was much simpler to implement, much less costly, and saved them a whole lot more. And so they got a return. They basically made up the cost of all of the work that they had already done, plus the work that we did, in an incredibly short period of time. And I think that helps demonstrate two things. One is sustainability doesn't have to cost more. I've heard from so many people, nobody's going to care about sustainability because it's going to cost money, and they want to make money. But your efficiency argument, for example, if we can make a process more efficient, that likely means it costs less, which means we are going to make more money. And so it doesn't necessarily have to cost you more money. And the second is, you don't always know what the best approach is going to be. And so using methods like, what-if scenario planning will allow you to experiment in such a way to explore a solution space that you wouldn't have even thought of. They never even thought to attack the problem in that particular way. They were convinced this was the only thing that they could do, and it clearly wasn't.
I don't know if you are allowed to, but can you tell us what exactly was this solution in this case?
It actually had to do with the packaging. That if they used a different kind of packaging solution, they could package things more efficiently, they could package them more quickly, and the packing materials themselves were more environmentally friendly and easier to work with and less expensive.
Sometimes people think it's too difficult and the solution is right there.
Yeah, they're trying to make it so complicated, and no, actually, in this case, it was quite simple.
And Arthur, do you want to add?
Yeah, can I get two examples? Because I just love the fact that that you just mentioned, which is it doesn't necessarily need to be more expensive. Right now in the world, the most transported goods by trucks is air. It's the return freights. It's an average from 30 to 40%. So if you have collaboration in order to do return freights, you're actually having a more sustainable solution which is cheaper for everyone. Just a small example. And I like the example of the parent company I work for. Braskem is the largest biopolymers producer in the world. They've worked for such a long time in order to have this, what we call green plastics, right? So instead of using their regular route using fossil fuels, they do ethanol dehydration from sugarcane from Brazil. So for actually 1 ton of plastic resins that you produce on a regular way, and here in Europe, for instance, using naphtha, you actually put 1.9 tons of CO2 in the atmosphere. Using this technology that Braskem developed, you're actually capturing 3 tons of CO2. Wow. So it's a carbon negative solution. And it's possible, it's doable. You just have to have the right incentives in place. When I think about sustainability, to me, always start with consumer behavior. So there are definitely some changes. And your question to the audience, who wants to live in a better world? I think everybody, on their minds is raising their hand. So everybody wants that. It starts there, and then it comes with all the public commitments that the big brand owners are putting together. We are no different than that. And then comes all the policies and restrictions from governments, right? Which helps to put this into this circular round of good. And I think there are ways. I think that's the message here. There are ways for us to do that, and it doesn't necessarily need to cost more, yes. Which I think is
and when you are looking to invest in a company, do you look first on the sustainability, how sustainable this company is? How important is that for you?
So for us, it's our very investment thesis is defined in sustainability and digital transformation. And by the way, with digital transformation, you get things more sustainable because of efficiency, right? So from the get-go, we're only looking into companies that are sustainable. We're looking for energy transition, we're looking for new material solutions, we're looking for decarbonization, ways to do things, circular economy, all the recycling that can be done. So for us, from the get-go, it needs to be sustainable. And what we bring to the table when we're talking to those startups is, okay, so how can we help you, right? If we can't, we won't invest. We need to help you get where you need to get. That's what we do.
And Rebecca, do you think there is a lot of space for companies, consulting companies as yours, to help in this support, to think in a different way?
Yes, I think so. Obviously, these simulations are a part of it, but I can't emphasize enough just how hard it can be, particularly in an old, complex organization, to even figure out the data that you're starting with. And particularly in this age of digital transformation, everybody wants to be making data-driven decisions. But you've got to have good data to base those data-driven decisions on. And very often that data is hard to come by, particularly when you start to look at your supply chain and trying to get that information from all of your vast suppliers. And companies also want to know where to start and how to prioritize and what kinds of things should they be looking for. And that, it can often be useful to have someone who isn't invested in the way things have always been to ask questions of, why don't you think about changing that? And it's like, oh no, we can't do that. Well, why not? And the power of asking why or why not over and over again should also not be underestimated, because eventually you get to the root of the problem, which is, well, actually, it's just that's the way we've always done it.
And Arthur, how important is it to find a balance between profit and sustainability? And because sometimes it seems two different worlds, and sometimes it's not that, they are not that far, right?
Sure. When you look to big companies, they have what we call the abatement curve, right? So you have all the projects that they are actually, let me summarize, good for the environment, and they give positive returns, right? So these are, it should be no-brainer. You should go for those projects. But the hard thing is, okay, what do you do with those projects that are above the line? The ones that you have to invest, and they're not necessarily NPV positive, right? And you see that in the hard-to-abate industries, right? Cement, steel, petrochemicals, and so on and so forth. So what do you do in order to make that work, right? So there are, and people are looking for that, right? These organizations are looking for that. I think the financial industry is sending the right messages to say, hey, we're gonna provide funding at lower rates. There are incentives for that with the help of the government. You see IRA in the US right now, it's gonna be, to me, a revolution, right? In terms of what they can do with that. And you see companies establishing costs for, for CO2 emissions, which would take that curve, that line, and bring it down a bit. So there are ways, and I think those industries, those big companies out there, they're doing that. You see the brand owners pressuring their suppliers. You see Apple, what they've done, and it's no different for Unilever, Procter & Gamble, and those big brand owners out there. So they're doing what they can. They're pushing the entire supply chain. Obviously, it gets to a place where it's harder for those segments, and that's where you need policies and you need help and support from government and from the financial services industry. Because I think, again, the will is there, the intent is there. You just need to find the right, I would say, summation of incentives to make sure that when it gets to the base of the industry, that is actually something that can be done.
Well, and it's also, it isn't always clear to people that this isn't going to cost money. I was giving a talk someplace on sustainability, and the very first question I had is, no company is ever going to prioritize a sustainability initiative because it's going to cost them money. And I said, that's actually a completely false statement. You know, sure, some sustainability initiatives are more complex than others, but they're, in many industries, we're so far off that there's all kinds of low-hanging fruit around that you can actually start to develop some of these initiatives and get some momentum and demonstrate ROI and start to counter this perception that, well, of course, this is going to cost money and therefore we have to sacrifice profitability, because you can't be a sustainable business if you're not profitable.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And so we have to figure out how to be sustainable in the world, but also be sustainable as a business. Yeah. And I think it's possible.
I'm sure here there are some entrepreneurs that want their business more sustainable. What are, and you have a lot of experience with that, Rebecca, what are the primary challenges they usually face and how to overcome it?
The data, number one. But I think more broadly, nobody wants to say, I don't want to live in a sustainable world. Nobody wants to say that. But they don't always connect the actions that have to be taken with the consequences for what that means about how they might go about their job or how they might go about their life. And so one of the things that you really have to do organizationally is over-communicate. These are what our targets are. This is what we're striving for. These are the actions that we're taking. This is why we're taking those actions. And importantly, these are the consequences of the expected consequences of those actions on our employees, on our customer, on our supply chain, on our product, and on the world. Because there are still a lot of people, who just think about this in terms of carbon, but also they really don't understand all of the different mechanisms and all of the different issues that inform just how sustainable something is. And so organizations really need to communicate the whys and the whats and the hows to their people and to their customers, so that everybody understands these are the impacts, but this is why those impacts are happening and why that's important.
Rebecca was talking about communication. Arthur, do you know how you could engage better stakeholders, employees, consumers in more sustainable initiatives? Do you have a view on that?
Yeah, we were discussing backstage, and Rebecca mentioned it, and I fully agree. Sometimes it's hard to make those decisions go down the entire organization, right? And I've been there. Some comes from the top, something that will change the way people are perceiving how to do investment or how to go about a different process. And how do you make sure that that specific information goes down the right way? People are not ready for that. So I think this mindset is necessary, right? So you need to really communicate that. I see companies, and we are no different, having a lot of those new initiatives in the supply chain. So if you want to be a supplier, you want to go supply whatever you're supplying for our company, you need to make sure that you're doing things in a sustainable way, you're buying sustainable. So again, it's brushing the entire chain, right? The entire supplier chain. I think that sends the right message. I think that's what these companies are doing. And when it comes to the brands, and I'll use an example which I love, is these tennis shoes here, right? They have this, we call it a sweet sole. It uses green plastics to do the sole. This company, I'm not going to use the name of the company, but they made this, this publicity saying, why don't our competitors do the same thing? 2 months after that, those competitors became our clients as well. So there is this intent, and people are being very vocal these days, right? How you can engage, and these guys engage their competitors, right? And I thought that was fantastic from a marketing point of view, a position, right? How they positioned themselves, the go-to-market strategy was fantastic. It was good. Well, it's their competitors, yeah, but it was good for the environment. They were being very adamant about that. So I think there are ways you need to really make sure that permeates the entire organization, to your customer, to your suppliers, and even to your competitors.
I love that story.
Yeah,
That's great.
And innovation often requires collaboration. How to encourage more collaboration between different industries, sectors, in order to have common goals, more sustainable goals?
That's a tough one, but I think it starts with the goal. And if you know that is the advantage when you think about something like carbon, is we have governments coming together to set particular targets. And then you can start to talk about, what does it really mean to hit this target? What is it going to take to hit this target? And what do you have to contribute to hitting that target? And what do I have? And what do you have? And how can we combine those things together? But being very upfront about the goal makes it a whole lot easier both to innovate and collaborate. Because innovation doesn't happen in a vacuum. You sure, occasionally, you know, the apple falls on somebody's head and all of a sudden, oh, I understand gravity now. But in general, you want to know what the target is. You want to know what you're trying to achieve, and then you can start to brainstorm and start to see, well, gee, if I brought you in, we could do this stuff together.
Do you think these targets are very clear in the market?
Yeah, well, I speak from my world. We're investing in those startups, right? A very difficult segment out there, and I think we're probably the initiative from my parent company that can really talk to their competitors, my parent company's competitors, and everybody wants to collaborate. It's a collaboration game. Everybody wants to double the chances of that an investment, especially in a sustainable startup out there, can make it through. So we're very collaborative on that sense, right? And I think that increases the chances again. So if we come and say, you know what, we can provide a lot of expertise from PhDs in, I don't know, biopolymers in biopolymers or in CO2 to chemicals, our competitors can do something in, I don't want to get too technical, catalysis or anything like that. So we're collaborating. And you see more and more of those things happening, right? From different industry, from the same industry, you know, big competitors out there doing that. So I think that's the way. Collaboration is the name of the game, and that's how we can double our chances to get into a more sustainable future.
What are the biggest challenges now, Rebecca, in your view, in order to have more sustainable goals and to match these goals?
Data and imagination.
Imagination.
Yes. We have to let go of our thinking about how things should be and use imagination to re-envision how it should be.
Yeah. And Rebecca, with ThoughtWorks, you have to think about that. You are used to. In your sector, how could you also give some ideas? Is it possible?
I like the think different. I like the, we need to be bolder. I think if you see where we want to get and the pace we're doing things, we're not going to get there. So we need to be bolder. If I could leave one word, I think that would be the one.
We are here now, 2023, talking about sustainability. For how long do you think we still have to talk about sustainability until it just become like something ordinary in our lives, something basic?
My crystal ball is broken. I have no idea.
I'm glad that question was for you. Yeah, but
you haven't.
I think it will take some time, unfortunately. But we need to be optimists. We're going to get there. We're going to get there.
It's over.
It's over.
Yeah, thanks a lot, everybody, for being here with us, and I hope you got inspired with these stories, these examples, and good luck.
Thank you, Bianca.